Your first question you might ask is, what does Superman have to do with a presentation about Islam? Well, I grew up in North America, in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and we didn't have iPods and iPhones, we didn't have internet, we didn't have, obviously, a lot of the things the kids nowadays have. So we read comic books. So a lot of the cartoon characters that we read in comic books, they were our heroes per se. And these were the images that we grew up as small children with comics and that were imprinted in our psyche per se to tell us what a hero is and what heroes stand for. And heroes stand for good, and heroes are against evil, and the good guys always win. So as you look at the images of the heroes, the superheroes that I would have grown up with, the Captain America, Hercules, what is the first question, what is the question that comes to mind is, what do you notice about all of these superheroes? And the first thing I notice now when I look back at it with the vision that I have as a Muslim is that these heroes were all white, and they were all good-looking, middle-class, handsome, white people. So our paradigms of who we look to and what images we see and what people that are good and wholesome are supposed to look like are often reflected in the media that we watch. And often we're not aware of this inculcation in our mind actually happening. It happens so regularly and time after time that we're not even aware that it's actually happening. When we show an image like this, a black Santa, it actually does something to us. It challenges us to look at stereotypes that we have of people and actually look at the media and the marketing messages of many institutions, many companies, and we have to question it. Are what we know of other people, are they from talking to these people themselves, or are they messages that have been sent to us from the media? And I will say, as a Muslim now, looking at how Arabs and Muslims are portrayed in the media, that much of what we understand, if not all of what we understand about Islam in North America, comes from the same media that perpetuates stereotypes of people and races in the past. Let's look at the TV, and how does TV show the images of Arabs and Muslims? So, and here is Walt Disney presenting Donald Duck and Goofy, crazy with the heat. So of course you'll see the stereotype of the Arab with the sword. The Arab in the media, the Western media, has always been presented as the bad guy. Ali Baba, the mad dog of the desert. Another image from the cartoons of a stereotypical Arab or Muslim image. Here we have Sacha Cohen and his recent stint at the Grammy Awards. And Nadia Tonava writes today in an op-ed for the Huffington Post, referring to Cohen's Oscar stunt, "Arabs are among the few cultures that Hollywood still exploits with impunity. Routinely we are profiled as unsavory or sultry characters, generally terrorists, dictators, sheikhs, or oil tycoons or Bedouins, but it is not just Hollywood that perpetuates this imagery. These stereotypes are promoted through the media, law enforcement, our courts, legislatures, Congress, and our political candidates." If you look at what's happening today in the political system, especially in the United States, how they're perpetuating the myth of the Muslim terrorist and the Arab terrorists. If you do some research on the internet and you see some of the attack ads that the politicians are using, because fear sells. You have to have a fear of an enemy to promote some of this geopolitical movement that's going on with our military industrialized complex. Here's another image we see from Team America World Police, where the Arabs were always perpetuated and marketed as being the bad guys. If you have a beard and a turban, you must be up to something bad. an image in the New Yorker of Obama when he was running for office. Of course, people were saying he's a Muslim, which why should it matter? But there's an image of him in a turban and the traditional Middle Eastern dress. Here's an ad in the newspaper for the Cape Breton Post. That was after the André Breivik massacre in Oslo, while they're blowing themselves up. Perfect. So to perpetuate the stereotypical Arab or Afghani Muslim. The original lyric of the movie in Aladdin said, "Where they cut off your ear if they don't like your face." It received complaints from the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee and other groups upon the film and soundtrack's initial release. A new lyric, "Where it's flat and immense and the heat is intense," was recorded for subsequent soundtrack pressings and home video releases. The subsequent line, "It's barbaric, but its home was left intact." So the original lyric capitalized on the stereotype throughout history, and they only reacted to that after a number of complaints. Here's other media stereotypes of Muslims and Arabs in the media. But of course, Arabs and Muslims have not been the only group that's been stigmatized and trivialized in the media. We have the trivialization and stereotypes of the native people, the First Nations of North America, in the cartoons of the day. Often now what we see mascots for sports teams, but there is not one member of the actual sports team that is First Nations. Only the mascot, but there's no First Nations members on the actual sports teams in many cases. Of course, cowboys and Indians. The Indians were always the bad guys, and the cowboys were always the good guys. And even the word Indian is a misnomer, because these people were from India, really. And the word Aboriginal is a word that actually, when you look at the ab part of it, you would get abdicate and abhor, original. So why do we say aboriginal? What's the ab part of that word? Indicates abhorrence, to abdicate, absence. So when you take the original people and you remove them, then you can call them aboriginals, but they are the actual original people of the land. Now they're looked upon as being the ones that are coming in from outside. They're even being called foreigners now, but they were the original people of the land. Stereotypical black person in the early cartoons. Of course, today's image of the black man is the bling bling music, gangster rap image that they're presenting to the youth, that in order to be successful, you've got to have a gold chain, you've got to have a fancy car, you've got to have ladies on your arms. And this is the commercialized and the consumerist type mentality that the media is propagating to the young people. And when a young person can't find a job, and they've been told that in order to be successful you have to have stuff, it presents a tension in society that also propagates violence and crime. But that's another lecture altogether. Stereotype of the black man being the powerful over the white woman. And of course the good old Bratz dolls. They're another stereotypical way that the media and the toys produce imagery about certain races and what to expect. And often the young people that play with these dolls fall into these stereotypes because they're playing with these toys constantly that reaffirm the stereotype of a certain group over them, but then they fall victim to the same stereotype over and over again. Women, of course, have not been left out with the media and the stereotypical view of a woman, that you have to look a certain way to be successful. In the princesses, the princesses we see, of course, the Barbie dolls, you have to have a certain look in order to be successful, that you aren't valued based on your mind, you're valued based on your body. Where do we get the information about our world from? from the day we're born, it seems lately we've been, or for the last so many years, we've been glued to the television set telling us about our world. So the media is telling us what to believe and what we should believe about another race, what we should believe about people from day one in ways that we don't even know that's happening. So the cartoons are an example, and it just happens over and over and over and over. One group is bad, one group is good. The music industry telling us what we should expect of ourselves and our relationships with others, how to view the world, very powerful. And of course the newspapers and other media, and we're seeing time in and time out as history continues that the free media, the free press is a thing of the past. A few companies now own most of the media that we see. Do they make money from promoting peace and harmony, or from generating tension? So generating inner tension or social tension, family tension. Are these media, are they interested in making money? Of course they make money. And how does society make a lot of their money? Is from creating social tension, and then the corporations have the solution for that social tension, but it costs money. So they create a social tension, and there's anxiety in society. Then the pharmaceutical companies will come with a solution for that tension, but their solution always costs money. Effects of media stereotyping. You could see that before the stereotyping took place, we had relatively peaceful societies. There's an inculcation of media stereotyping, and then the results are a displaced society. They are either in residential schools for the native community, in jail for the black man, the black community, and of course the war on terror, the war on Islam, has in the minds of many people in North America justified torture, justified the inhumane treatment of millions of people, the bombing of innocent children, innocent women. And here you see a man with basically in the middle of a 100-degree day with his boy behind barbed wire with a bag over his head. If that's not total degradation of human beings, if you feel they're guilty of something, put them to trial. So we are asking you to educate before you hate. I like particularly this image a friend of mine sent, where it's ignorance, of course, is being fueled by fear. So you have the fear and the flames of fear bubbling the liquid of ignorance, and out of that comes hate. So all you have to be is ignorant of a people, and then you apply a little bit of fear, and you'll get a whole lot of hatred. What did some people say about fear and ignorance? Fear always springs from ignorance. Ralph Waldo Emerson. It is when power is wedded to chronic fear that it becomes formidable. Eric Hoffer. Misunderstanding arising from ignorance breeds fear, and fear remains the greatest enemy of peace. Lester B. Pearson. Collective fear stimulates herd instinct and tends to produce ferocity towards those who are not regarded as members of the herd. And we're seeing that today. Collective fear stimulates herd instinct and tends to produce ferocity towards those who are not regarded as members of the herd. So if you aren't with us, you're against us. So you have two choices in any of the argumentation that's brought forward in the general media. Is you have to agree with us. If you don't agree with what we're saying, then you must be against everything that we stand for. Neither a man nor a crowd nor a nation can be trusted to act humanely or to think sanely under the influence of great fear. Bertrand Russell. You apply enough fear in society constantly, red alert, yellow alert, amber alert, this alert, that alert, and you're constantly applying a media stereotype of certain people, and you apply it long enough, the people will no longer think sanely. This is why we can justify killing millions and millions of innocent human beings that have families and that cry tears and have blood, because people are generally good. But if you apply enough fear to them, of course they feel like they want to believe the messages that are being told them.